What's up, guys? Bob the Gamer here, coming at you with some more Edison content. Today we're going to be going over a tier list based on how I think the format in Edison is going to evolve after the changes at the NWACQ over at NATS 2024. So let's just kind of get into it. So let's go ahead and get some of the elephants out of the room. So we're going to grab just some of the guys that we know are good and just throw them up there. So Hero Frog, obviously S tier. This is a variant of Fraser Smith's deck. A lot of the Frog Hero decks are kind of trying out different things, but you know, it's got the Future Fusion, it's got the Dandy, that type of thing. This deck has been proven already. It's topped a lot of tournaments. Frankly, it's just one of the best decks. I think moving forward, the format is going to be pretty well full of frogs because of the Substitute reprint that we've already gotten for the Secret Rare, and then it's coming out in the reprint of the Lightsworn set. So, frogs, I suspect, are going to be everywhere, and that's going to be kind of what gauges and pushes the format around a little bit. So, Hero Frogs, we're just going to go ahead and knock that guy out here. Blackwing, obviously S tier. This is this is Vayu Turbo. I apologize. Wrong order, but everybody knew that was coming anyway. Well, spoiler alert, Blackwing's going up there too. Vayu Turbo. This list is from Rick from NAWCQ from Nats. I touched on this in my other video. There will be a link in the end of the video if you want to check that out. But notably, he's not on Charge of the Light Brigade, and he's on Double Hamster. He's also on 2 Oppression in the main. I think this is kind of the future of Vayu Turbo. I think that Vayu Turbo's strength is Royal Oppression and being able to play around with those cards that don't have those type of things. You know, they struggle with those, like zombies or decks that like to special summon a lot. So Oppression really is their strength, and I think it's kind of just time to play into that. I don't know about the no charge. Obviously, he topped Nats, and I didn't, so who am I to say, really, I guess. But I would probably put a charge in here as well, maybe even as just like a 41st card, because I feel like charge is just such a power card in this deck. The only real downside is you don't want to mill your Burial, and you don't want to mill your Dad, but, I mean, you've got chances of running into those with the Hamster and Raiko anyway, so. That's kind of enough to say about Vayu Turbo. What actually won Nats was this Fishborg, Dream Frog, whatever you want to call this, Synchro Frog deck list. Notably, it's got the same ratios for Monarchs as Hero Frogs. It has your 3 Caius and your 1 Ryza. So, I mean, really, it's a Frog deck. A lot of the core is going to be the same. A lot of the tricks are going to be the same. They're going to be able to dupe block you and things like that. But this one's got synchro variants that they can do. Colossal Army Arm is really easy to do in this deck. That said, I believe this is based off of Frog Slicers Guild, which did well in Europe, I believe. I don't know if this is going to be more of a flash in the pan, or if this is going to be kind of how Frogs evolves throughout the format. But, I mean, you definitely have to give this deck credit. I'm just going to kind of throw this here under the Death Frog. My tier list has tested. Obviously, it's tested enough to top an event. It won the largest Edison event since SJC Edison. So, clearly the deck is good enough that it at least has to be at the top of tier 1.5. So, that's kind of that list. Moving on. Blackwings. This is technically, it's a hybrid Blackwing list. This is a HT19's list that he used. I believe he got, what was it? I believe he ended up at 2nd in the event. So, hybrid or standard Blackwings. I mean, they're all Blackwings. Let's be real. The decks are very similar. There's some slight differences. Obviously, he's on 2 Grepher and not 3 Vayu, which is a little interesting. No Rhoda. But it worked for him. He topped the event. So Blackwings, be it standard or hybrid, those obviously are going to go into S tier. So getting into some of the other decks that came up from Nats. Amaryllis, it's obviously very safe that Amaryllis is going to go in tier 1.5. So Amaryllis is actually here. So there was a couple cool lists. This one's more of like a standard Amaryllis. He decided to go for Gravarose over Botanical Lion, which I thought was different. But all Amaryllis builds are moving more towards like a Titanial Turbo or a Titanial Control style deck. The Miracle Fertilizer cards are coming in, and they're just trying to really stick Titanial to the board, especially in a frog meta. It's great against frogs. It can be pretty good against Blackwings. Obviously, they can collude over it, but it does take away Sirocco Pump because that does target. So, yeah, this build is definitely moving more towards just Titanial Control, and it's doing a great job. It had 2 tops. Here, I believe, is the other list. Nope, spoiler alert. Here is the other list. This was a hero quick draw list. They played Reasoning because they've got a lot of different levels in here, which I think is a really, really smart card. They played Reasoning, and they also played a small hero package in Future Fusion, Stratos, and Dasher. So basically you can use the Future Fusion to either dump Dandy with Gaia, you would dump Dandy and you would dump Stratos, or you can dump Dasher and you can dump Lord Poison to do Ab-Zero as well. So the deck's got some kind of neat tricks it can do. It also is on Charge and Foolish, so it's trying to get your Dandelion Engrave as quick as possible because that's super key to this deck. And once again, you know, the Miracle Fertilizers, we're trying to get the Titanial out. So that's kind of the 2 Amaryllis builds. Those are obviously very, very good. 2 of the top 8 at Nats were were Amaryllis. The next deck I want to go over is going to be Diva Hero. Diva Hero also made it to top 8. And this was the kind of new list that he played. I believe this is a televisual style build. It's got the Armageddon Knight and it's got the Necrogardna. It is kind of Forsaken Plague and put Necrogardna in its place. It's great for return. And this just kind of ensures that you get your Malicious Engrave or you get a Hero Engrave. The Armageddon Knight is an extra source that can either dump Plague, obviously Necro, or your Infernal Hero Prodigy if you need to, if you used Mali already and it got crowed or something, the second one. So it's kind of just ensuring that your heroes hit the grave, that way your Miracle Fusions are live. Obviously it's on the Future Fusion, so that's going to send Mali and it's going to send 1 Diva, or Treeborn. If Treeborn's still in the deck, that's obviously the better option. So that's pretty good. This is Austin's list from the top 8 at Nats. I forgot to mention it, but William and Christopher were the other 2 Amaryllis builds. It was William Farr the 4th and Christopher Lindsay. Christopher Lindsay, I believe, is the one that had the hero variant. He actually just started a YouTube channel that you guys should check out. He's a pretty cool guy, and I expect to see more of him in tops. But back to Diva Hero. I think Diva Hero is still really strong. I know that he has the Regeki break. He wanted to just get rid of Oppression, Trap Stun obviously for Oppression. And he said that Deck Devi in the main was really, really good for matchups that basically weren't Blackwing. And even in Blackwing, that can hit a lot of stuff. So it can hit the Kalutes out of hand, you know, get the Blizzards, which is their best comeback play. So Diva Hero is obviously quite good. Let's see here. Aliens. Aliens, you gotta learn to love yourself here. I don't think Aliens is good. I think Aliens kind of sucks. I don't think it's worth it. Chainburn, I guess you could argue viable, but it's going to be at the bottom, and I just feel like once players know how to play around Chainburn, you know, the whole Brio, empty your hands so they're not getting you with the extra damage for cards in hand and things like that. I just don't think it's very good. You're going to run into Career, you're going to run into Trap Stun, and you're going to want to throw your head through glass. I don't think it's worth it. If you really want to play it, I mean, you can. I just don't think it's worth it. But that's just me. If you really like Burn, that's your thing. Rescue Cat decks. Rescue Cat's pretty cool, actually. I've known that this topped, I believe it was the RBT, or at least it was very close to. And the deck did very well. Obviously not as well as Blackwing, but it survived because Blackwing is the most played deck. I think Blackwings and Frogs are going to be your most 2 common decks going forward, so expect to see more of those. And Rescue Cat obviously gets hit pretty hard through deck Devi with the Gravekeepers, and obviously Cat itself, Monk. It hits a lot of key cards in that deck, but it was able to pull through. So Cat, I definitely think, is viable. Kind of in that same vein, let's talk about X-Saber. So I'm actually going to put X-Saber up here. I think in a way that it's kind of a better Cat deck. I might get stoned for that, but I've been testing a lot with this deck, and I think it's actually pretty good. This is Totagon's list. He was in I believe it was like a 38-man tournament or something like that. It was single elimination. It was out in SoCal. I believe it was Swagger that hosted the tournament. So this is Totagon's X-Saber list. I know that Totagon has done a very large amount of testing with this deck, and he was able to win. It was a super high rarity brain control, I believe. So he was able to do that with X-Sabers, and he's also top forward with it, and he's done really well. So if you guys haven't checked out Totagon's channel, Totagon Plays, super cool guy, really big into sabers, and I think people are really sleeping on this list. It doesn't have Dark Soul, it doesn't have Boggart Knight, it doesn't have Pashul, but the cards that it does have, they still work really well together. The idea is to get like Gold Sark and get either Monk or Cat, depending on your hand, get Fall Troll, and then get a sweeper like Trunade or Storm. And then from there you can kind of pop off and do hand rips and OTK, or get close to. Alternatively, we have another list here. This is James Wright's list, aka Flash. He is on Team OTG over in Chicago. He has this is the highest placing X-Saber list ever. He was top 4, and I believe it was a 60-man tournament. That was not single elimination, but I think he went like 8-2 or something like that by the time you account for cut to top. And it's pretty similar to the Totagon list, but there's some key differences. It's got Morphing Jar. It's only on 1 rat. He only plays 2 E-Calls, and he's playing Pot of Avarice. In my experience with this deck, Pot of Avarice is really good or really bad. I'm testing a build right now that has 1. But I know that James swears by the Pot of Avarice. He really likes it. And yeah, so this is his list. I think X-Sabers is pretty good. I'm going to put it in the bottom of Tier 2, what did I call that? Viable. I don't know that it's going to win Nats or anything like that, but I definitely think you could top with it. I think you just need to really learn your matchups. X-Sabers is a deck that, if you play with it really well, you get rewarded. But if you misplay even once, you get punished pretty hard. So you've got to be really, really careful and calculated with this deck and have a lot of practice. Definitely one of the harder decks in the format, but I think it's a lot better than people give it credit for. That was kind of my sleeper choice. Dark Gaia, I'm going to put this towards the bottom of viable. I think that this deck could use some cooking, but I know that it just won a pod out in Cali. That was doing more of the hero style version with the Stratos and the Prismas. You send Big Piece Golem and you send Malicious Fiend. It also runs a couple Miracle Fusions so you can make Ab-Zero as well. So I think that this deck is really good. Suggestions that people that want to play this, I would advise running Gold Sarks and possibly Decrees. We had a guy at Locals that was really playing this, a friend of mine. And when we put Gold Sarks into the deck, it started to perform much, much better. It just gets you your missing piece to try an OTK or establish board control. Certainly not as good as some of the other decks up here, but it's pretty solid. Next up is Fairy. I don't think that Pure Fairy is necessarily the way to go. Christia, don't get me wrong, is an incredible card and really hard to out. It's a giant body, and it stops special summons, and there's a lot of decks in the format that cannot get over that card in the main deck. So it's also got really good tools. It's got, the Effect Veiler of Edison format, which is Herald of Orange Light. The only deck that can do something like that, unless you're playing Divine Wrath or something. But it does have good tools, but I think, honestly, you're just better off going with the Chaos Fairy version of this. I think that is going to be better. That or Christia Sworn. I'm going to put both of those up here, actually. I think both of these, the Christia Sworn as well as the Chaos Fairies, I think those are both actually better than just standard fairies. We're going to put fairies up here. Again, we're moving Chainburn to the back. I'm not too high on that deck. Fish OTK, this is the one that uses like Coelacanth, and they have like the Frog Engine and stuff. I'm going to be honest, when this pops off, it hits really hard. but I think it's far more inconsistent than the Dream Frogs that just top Nats. I think Fishborg, if you're going to do a style deck like that, like a Synchro Frog list, I think this is just better. I think the Dream Frogs, it's just a better way to go. The Fish OTK can be a bit bricky, although when it goes off pretty hard. Flameveil's a deck that hasn't really gotten a lot of respect in Edison format. Fire Dog is so good. He's tremendous. 1900's amazing. Being able to special summon and then go into an 8-star Synchro monster. They're not the best. I would say 6 stars are probably the best Synchros in Edison. You know, Brio, followed by Goyo. I mean, obviously Dark End is a contender for that as well, but I think that just Fire Dog by himself is tremendous. Unfortunately, that just means that you have to play Flameveil Magician. Interestingly enough, you can also use Nitro Synchron, but that doesn't come back off of Rekindling, so it kind of defeats the purpose. But I think that using Fire Dog with Magicians makes it tough, because Flameveil's so good, Fire Dog is so good, and then Magicians just, it's so bad when you draw it. It sucks. Typically people are running 2 of those unless they're in some kind of a mill version. I've seen Quick Draw, I've seen Lightsworn. I don't know. It just doesn't seem as good to me. I think that if you're going to play it, you should play 3. The ratios that I have found is play 3 Fire Dog, play 2 Magician, and play 2 Rekindling. If you're in a mill version, you can play 3 Rekindling, obviously. But if you're not milling, I wouldn't go any higher than that. Glad Beasts. Glad Beasts, honestly, I have to put them up at tested at this point. They have topped several large tournaments, including the recent Nats. Here we go. Yeah, here is the recent top of an AWCQ. This is from Mike. Seems like a super chill guy. But he topped Nats with this. He got 4th. He really wanted 3rd because that's how you got the Substitute card, you know. And top 8 from Nats, other than top 3, you basically don't get anything. I mean, the Hamster Mat's worth like what? Like $60 to $100, depending on the time frame. But for going to Nats, the largest tournament since SJC Edison, and only getting a Hamster Mat that you can win in a side event, that kind of sucks, man. I definitely think they should have went to top 16, but, you know, maybe, I think Konami typically revises these things after Nats, so hopefully we'll have a better list after this, and they'll go to top 16, and then maybe we'll see Glads kind of get better prizing. I personally don't love Glads, but there's no denying that into a heavier Frog meta, that the deck is starting to do pretty well. It's got a couple tools for Blackwings too. Book to stop the summons. Obviously Bottomless. Shrink is interesting. I was playing this in a zombie variant that I was running before when I was sighting into Decrease. So the idea was that if they had Sirocco plus Kalut, right, their strongest standard Blackwing plus Kalut, that goes to 3,400. Shrinks knocks off 1,000, so that goes to 2,400. So if you have a Stardust plus Shrink, if they have Kalut and they don't have, you know, like an Armed Wing or something, they can't get over you. The same logic is probably somewhat similar here. They're hoping that they just don't have the Kalut and they can just kill them in damage step. But yeah, I mean, Glads is going places, at least in this upcoming Frog meta that we're seeing, so good for them. Another deck I want to talk about is Zombies. Zombies is kind of my first love, although I've got to put it towards the lower of 1.5 in the tested tier. Zombies hasn't really been topping a whole lot. This deck list, this is Hero Zombies. This is kind of like the way you want to go, I think, if you're going to try and play Zombies in 2024. Although, I've been thinking that maybe things like Fiendish Chain or something, or maybe Chalice would be really good in Zombies heading into this Frog meta, because when you're Goblin Zombie, or you're Pyramid Turtle, or Mystic Tomato, whatever recruiter you're using, right? When your recruiter gets banished, or your Goblin gets banished by Caius, you just want to commit Toaster Bath. For legal reasons, that's a joke. But it's just so terrible, and it really sets the deck back, and it kind of kills them. So going into a Frog meta, I'm expecting not to see a lot of Zombies, but this was Jake XO's list from the recent RBET. I believe he got top 8 with this. And this thing can explode and kill you out of nowhere. It's kind of similar to Diva Hero, but it also has the zombie engine in it, so it can kind of do all the zombie things. As you can see, he still has zombie cards in here. Hades is just insane. He stops Treeborn, he stops Vayu, he stops Plague, he stops Rykos, hamsters, fossil dyna. He stops like everything. This guy just says, I don't care what your defense monster is. If it's not a Spirit Reaper, then it's going to die and you're not going to get anything out of it. It stops recruiters. It's super good. Everybody plays that one in zombies. Not everybody plays Doomkaiser. I know Beast Mode, which is one of the most prominent zombie players. He's very, very big on not cutting this card. So I've been trying to fit it into all my stuff, using Beast Mode as an example. He's a great player. Really big advocate for zombies. But I think this is kind of one of the ways that you want to go if you're going to play zombies. It's got the gold Sark, so same kind of idea with sabers in a way, is that you want to use gold Sark, you want to get your heavy storm. Some lists are playing Trunade, and you just want to be able to get rid of their back row and just pop off with all your zombie stuff and Diva Hero stuff. So the deck is really strong, and I definitely think that this has the potential to top more, and I think we're going to see more of it. Speaking of zombies in Beast Mode, this is a list that Beast Mode used at Nats. I believe he got like 14th or 16th or something like that, but since he didn't go to top 16, unfortunately it didn't matter for our boy Beast Mode. But he is running Ultimate Offering zombies. I know for a while that Instant Fusion zombies was really big. And I still don't think the deck is bad, but Beast Mode swears up and down that Ultimate Offering is just better. You could just use it more than once. As Beast Mode likes to put it, Instant Fusion gives you a great play. Ultimate Offering wins you the game. So if Ultimate Offering stays on the board, it resolves. This card's crazy. You can dodge Torrential, you can dodge Bottomless. There's a lot of different ways that you can use this card, and you can chain it to like an MST Destruction as long as it was already face up. It's just got a lot of tricks that you can do. But he was also an Illblood, which you don't see very often anymore. He's not running Bull Drago in the deck, which I might have tried, but Beast Mode has far more experience with this than I do. But I know that he had a good time. He really enjoyed his event. And I would not be surprised to see this top at a different point. Interestingly enough, you guys might notice Heavy's in the side deck, and there's no Gors. He's only on Trag in the main. Personally, I don't love Trag nowadays. I don't know. It's not been testing very well for me. But if you're going to run zombies and you don't want to run the hero variant, this is probably your other way to go. I still don't think Instant Fusion's bad. It gives you some cool plays, but I think it might be headed in this direction if you're going to do that. Like I said, there's a lot of traps in here. You could probably squeeze in a Fiendish Chain or a Chalice to stop kind of the Kaya's plays, and keep your guys around that way. So I'm going to put zombies up and tested. I think that they're quite good, but they do kind of struggle with the Frog matchup, and Glads can be tough as well. Getting Charioted super sucks. That card's really good. I don't know. I would probably put it above Chaos Fairy, personally. I think I would also put it above Christie Swarm. I don't know that I would put it above Glads, only in this specific meta where we're kind of going frog heavy. Speaking of frogs, just standard other frog deck lists, we're probably going to put them like here. Just generic frog monarchs. I think the deck is still solid. It's a frog deck. It has the frog engine. Frog engine is incredible. Cycles through all your deck, leaves you with all your best cards. I just don't think it's as good as, your Synchro Frogs or your Hero Frogs. But it's obviously still good. Gravekeepers, I don't know. Maybe somebody can cook something up in Gravekeepers, and they're definitely annoying when you play against them, but I just don't really see them topping. Maybe I could put them in the viable tier, but and it hurts me to say, I know Nick at Refined loves Gravekeepers, but I just don't see them being able to top something. They're in a lot of decks. You've got like the small mini engine that's played in some things like Cats or sometimes X-Sabers that plays it. But other than that, I just don't think it's good enough by itself. Kira's, that was kind of floating around for a while. I don't think that's super great. So I'm just going to put that in Cook Harder. Base Lightsworn. It's so high roll, right? Like, when it works, it's arguably the best deck in the format. It just goes off, and it just kills you. It mills 3 Wolves, and Plague, and Necrogardna, and you've got 2 JDs after a Cold Wave, and if you don't have Gores, you just die. So, the deck, when it goes off, is very good. I think I'm going to put it down here in Viable, because going into a Frog meta, You know, a lot of frogs will play, you know, they'll play Gores and 2 Fader or something like that, or they'll play Threatening Roar. I'm going to throw it in Viable because I just don't... Into frogs, I don't know if it's going to be good enough. And it doesn't have the stop special summoning like Christia Sworn does, so... like this Dimension anti-meta, nobody likes you, man. Like, learn to love yourself. I'm going down here. Not that the deck is that bad. It's just, it's not really good enough to top. But it's so annoying to play against. It's just not fun. It's like if you go to the tournament and you're like, I want to not have fun and I don't want anybody else to have fun the deck. Like, that's how I feel about, you know, your triple macro, your triple dimensional fissure, and DD Survivor. Just, it's not fun, man. To me, it's like, I would prefer all that stuff was just not in the format. But it is. So we have to take into consideration. When you go to a big tournament, you're just going to show up. You're going to get lucky. You're going to knock a couple people out and just ruin their tournament. And just... That's how I feel about that deck. Quick Draw, I think, is viable. It's definitely above Chain Burn. I'm also going to put CD Can above Chain Burn. I like Quick Draw. I think it's pretty good. It's really good against frogs, actually. So I think I'm going to end up putting it up here. I don't know if I want to put it above... I don't know if I want to put it above Light Sworn. Yeah, I'll put it above Light Sworn. I think that Quick Draw, and there's a couple different variants for this. There's the Machina Quick Draw that was played at RBT. It was the only undefeated deck. And it's able to still make Quick Draw, which if the frog list, they don't have one of their discard traps or something, Quick Draw can be really annoying. It just lets them recycle and get pluses, all the Quick Draw things. And they can't Monarch it or anything like that. They can't Monarch, Soul Exchange, that type of thing. So they pretty much need a discard trap to hit him. And he could just be really annoying for them. Frogs don't really have a way to pierce you like Blackwings do, which is what really punishes the tokens. So I think that Quick Draw is definitely going to be a bit better going into this frog-based meta. Morphtronics, I don't know. Maybe somebody can do something with those, but for now it's just kind of... I don't know, man. You got to cook harder if you want it to work. I don't really think Morphtronics is really going to do anything. I know some people play... What is it? Scopin? Is that the 3-star tuner that when he's in defense mode, he's a 4-star tuner? Some people play that in Fairies or Chaos Fairies for our Shining Angel play, which is kind of cute, but Morphtronics as a whole, man, I don't really see them doing a whole lot. Unfortunately, I got to say the same thing about Six Sam. Six Sam's a really cool deck, and I know that it explodes, like a format or two after this and becomes, like, borderline tier 0. But in Edison, you just... I don't know. I don't think anybody's been able to break it yet, and I don't know that we can, to be honest. But people are trying. I would probably rate this higher than some of these other decks. But Cook Harder, I'm not really super ranking by trying, right? Like, I think it's just a thing. Vasky decks, honestly, same thing. Vasky is cool, but I just don't really know that that's super figured out yet. And I feel like it just needs something else. Gear, it's kind of, I don't know, it's cute, it gets, that one Gear Beast is pretty cool, he does some work, and obviously not being able to Mirror Force this thing or whatever is cool, but, like, I feel like after that, what does the deck do? It's going to be cloggy, it's going to have extra terraformings and stuff like that. I do know that Swagger was running a Assault Mode Activate deck based off of this. I think that was based off of, oh gosh, whose list was it? Maybe that was the Frog Slicer list. I can't remember who made the Assault Mode Dinosaur deck, but I'm definitely going to put that up in Viable. That deck seems pretty good. Monster Mash, I believe this won a really big tournament in Europe recently. So, I mean, it's tested, it's viable, I guess. I don't know how it won that big of a tournament, but it's just not really doing anything over here in the States, which obviously isn't the only thing that matters, but... I'm just going to kind of put that where that's going to go. Gemini, I think, is viable. I certainly think it's better than Frogs. I know BK Kids Club does work pretty hard off of this. So, I'm going to put this up here. I personally haven't done a ton of testing with it, and I know it can be a little cloggy. But, Ojamas, I don't know, man. I don't see Ojamas doing anything, to be honest. I don't even really have a lot to say after it. It feels like after you hit the field spell, the deck just kind of falls apart. And it's just not very good. This, I believe, is Carpath's creation. This is his, like, cross-porter, like, convert contact thing. He claims it's the best Dark Creator deck in the format, and to his credit, he's probably right. I haven't seen a better one. But I don't know how viable this thing is. I know he's done really well with it, and he's topped. I guess I'm just going to put it, like, here. Because I've not really seen anybody else pilot this really well other than Carpath, and he's kind of an anomaly with stuff like that. So, Dragon Turbo, I'm going to put up and tested. When this deck goes off, this is the other deck like Light Swan. When it goes off, it just feels unbelievably unfair. It just clears your board. You know, it True Nades your back row, and then it summons out, like, 4 2,500 plus monsters, and you can't special summon Gores or Trag or Fader because they've got Quackimir or Drago on the board. This deck just feels really unfair when it goes off. But, I mean, there's a lot of times where it has consistency issues, and some of the games you just lose because you draw ass, not because you misplayed or because you're not as good of a player. I just feel like this doesn't allow for a lot of the higher skill players. I think can do better with other decks. Not that this deck isn't hard to play, it is. But I think sometimes it just limits you by its draws. So this is like the Hopeless Dragon deck, or I know that Blizzard Dragon deck was going around with Team OTG for a while in Chicago, where he's got like the Luster Dragon and the Spear Dragons and stuff. He's been doing really, really well with this deck. I'm actually going to put it up here. I might put it here. I think that the deck loses a bit of gas when it's not against the light and dark decks, but it's still a really good deck. And it's more of like a beatdown deck in a way. It's just like Dragon beatdown with a lot of traps, but it's doing well. So I'm going to put it up here and tested. It's done pretty well. I think it's got a lower ceiling than Dragon Turbo, but it's probably a little more consistent, so take that as you will. Machina Turbo, I think this deck is actually pretty good too. This deck, I think, has a decent matchup into Frogs. I'm actually going to put it above just standard Frog Monarch. Machina Fortress is just such a really good card. Being able to look at your opponent's hand and discard if they target you with something, which a lot of removal in Edison targets, from monster-wise, you know, you've got Brionic, you've got your Monarchs, you've got Mistworm, Dark End targets. So there's a lot of things that it's just kind of hard to get rid of this guy. He's just a nuisance. So I think Machina is really good. I think the Gadgets is worse. I think if you're going to do it, the Machina Turbo is the way to go with the Pot of Avarices and, you know, discarding your God, what is his name? The stupid, like, 10-star guy. Discarding him, whatever his name is. It slips in my mind at the moment. But discarding him to bring back Fortress it's like a Monster Reborn for the deck. Quackimiro, maybe, but I don't think so. I'm putting it in Cook Harder. If somebody could cook something up, cool, prove me wrong. Infernity, same thing. It's got some cute plays, but I just don't think it's ready yet. People say the same thing about Sabers, but that's kind of starting to get traction now, so I don't know. Norlaris, it's viable, but, like, I don't know. DD Crow just kind of kills the deck, I feel like. If somebody just crows you, you just kind of lose. Or, you know, if they, like, book a moon, your Phantom of Darkness, after you banish, it's like, oh, cool, I have this 0 dude with no effect that's going to get crushed next turn. So, I don't know. It's cool when it goes off. Like, if you get it first turn, it's like, really changes the state of the game. But, again, you can be DD Crow'd first turn, so. Hero Beat has kind of fallen off, but I mean, I still think it's tested. I definitely think it's the bottom of this tier. Because technically it is pretty consistent. I just think the ceiling on it is much lower than a lot of these other decks. I know it's really fallen out of favor, and I don't see it going back in with this kind of like Frog Blackwing meta that I think we're about to be in. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's bad. It just doesn't have high enough ceiling, I think. And then this is like Teledad / Zombies. Like, I don't think this is necessarily bad. I just think that Divas into Zombies is better. And Zombies as a whole is really good. But I don't know. I think that if you're going to do it, like I said with Zombies, you should just do like you should do the Hero Zombie build, or maybe like Beast Mode's Path with the Ultimate Offerings and the traps and stuff like that. So that's my tier list, guys. That's how I'm going to put it. I kind of want to put Sabers higher because of all the testing I've done with it, but I don't know. You know, I'm going to put Sabers higher. This might be a little biased here, but Sabers top of tier 2, I think. Sabers is really good. But yeah, that's going to be my tier list. Again, some of this stuff varies by pilot, but that's how I feel. We all know that it's heroes. It's Hero Frog, it's Vayu, and it's Blackwing. Although Vayu's kind of falling off a little bit. I would probably put Vayu, maybe the bottom. I don't know if I want Blackwings or Hero Frogs higher. Maybe Blackwing, but I don't know. It's hard to say. But I think those are going to be... That's how I'm going to leave it, I think. So, if you like this video, guys, or you want to see some deck talk or deck lists for some of these other deck lists that I didn't include, feel free to let me know. But until next time, guys, peace.